Welcome back to another video. Of course, we got taken down for a week over me being a little bit of a meanie pie, so to speak, on my most recent video about Neon the streamer. And so today, I basically went on the radio today with the president of my club. I'm the vice president over here at U of A. Yeah, very cool. Anyway, the point is that I'm going to show and I'm going to react for the first time, listening it back to my parts and see if there's anything interesting that this guy on the camera said.
Got some U of A college Republican guys. I've had Ricky. I've had you on in the past because you were a part of the whole big pro-life. It was last year, right? Last year, the pro-life demonstration.
Yeah, the pro-life demonstration last year that we had on campus. Where we got egged, and the university still hasn't done anything about it.
I was going to ask. We'll get an update on that. So I had you on to talk about that. And we have Lalo, right?
Yeah, Lalo's here.
Lalo,
too.
sorry,
Yeah.
Lalo. I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly. You two were out at the big LD17 kickoff party at St. Philip's Plaza. And we caught up for a few.
By the way, if you guys follow Lalo's Twitter, look up Lalo 2003 or something, and you're gonna find that I am young. By the way, so 2003 birth year. What is it? My gamer tag or whatever. My handle on Twitter. Look it up, Lalo 2003 AZ. You'll find that I uploaded the picture I have with Carrie Lake. So I met her for the first time finally, and basically we got her pics. We got to do the little bit of Riz. She called me handsome, folks. Let's go. And it's with this horrible, the lady who did the haircut, which first of all, don't get your haircut by a girl. Anyhow, it was called what was it called? A zero fade? I'm not used to this sort of nonsense. Okay, folks. Anyway, so I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so we met Carrie Lake, and we talked to this guy, Garrett Lewis, who runs a radio station out of Tucson, and the AM frequency. So this is like somewhat of an antiquated sort of service. Anyway, so we go here to the iHeart Studios, and we do this interview at 8 a.m. Wow, my God, early for me. And so that was basically it. All right, because that's the event he's referring to from, I think, Wednesday of this week.
About what's going on the campus. We'll talk about a whole lot of stuff. But first off, you were telling me, and I get whoever wants to answer it first, go ahead, about the enthusiasm now. You guys are the most, if not powerful, you have the biggest group. Are you the most powerful political group on campus?
So we are technically the largest.
True.
Campus,
Okay, hold on.
Which is
Really? So that flies in the face of the stereotype, right? The country club Republicans, things like that.
You have a very diverse group, and even more than that, we've got a group of people that are more dedicated than ever. Before, last year, it was a bunch of, I guess, autistic nerds just talking about political theory. But today we have people that are really just grinding it out, doing the phone banking, but also making connections that are relevant. And I think a lot of it is important because we're basically able to make connections with politicians and viscerally understand them on a level where a lot of people back then in the previous semesters couldn't really get to that level of understanding. And so we really have the biggest group, but not only that, but also you have to consider that at the U of A, we're kind of not necessarily, like they're not out to get us exactly, but they're definitely not helping out. And what I mean is they're definitely, like when we talk about getting funding, they make us fight tooth and nail every little appropriation, every little receipt. When we're talking about appropriations for other groups, when they want to get their pool tables for their frat parties, when they want to get their Chinese New Year costumes for their little clubs, they get thousands thrown at them. We have to really itemize every single receipt to get even half of the funding for our t-shirts for the club.
Who do you go through for that? Is it just one?
That is so crazy because I'm on single speed playing this back, but I talk so long. It's so long-winded. Like talking, when I usually do it, it feels half as long as when I'm listening to it back because whenever I hear myself talk, it's usually on 2 speed. And so I speak as if I have twice the amount of time allotted, but I guess other people would get annoyed by hearing me talk all the damn time.
Particular person?
We go to a board called USUA, and basically we're supposed to get like X amount of funding every semester. But again, like I said, they make us litigate every little piece, whereas with anybody else, they just throw it away like your daddy's little girl, you know? And so we really ought to get a little bit of credit for it because we do have the biggest group, and that's despite the most pressure. So it's like fomenting waves of criticism, and we tend to persevere through it.
Hang on a second. We need to put pressure on these people that are giving you guys a hard time.
Yeah,
I mean, how can that work? I mean, do we need lawmakers to go in there and say we're going to cut all your funding if you keep doing this stuff?
Well, what we need to do, I think it's a top-down issue.
You ever say things like, why are you not inclusive?
Well, they're very catty because they're going to be really nice in person, but then they'll really just talk behind you. I mean, it's a very stereotypical response you get from these people, but they definitely will. Like, we had a class with one of these people, and he just like look at us like glaringly, like with like some sort of like High School Musical sort of pizzazz, and we kind of just took it like, okay, is he mad at us? I guess he was. And so these people tend to be nice in person, but inevitably they'll try to work around us to try to kind of blackball us from getting any sort of funding or any sort of leeway with the administration.
The other thing too is they'll go out there and openly condemn our group as hateful, racist, and it's.
By the way, what other guy would use High School Musical as a relevant reference to a radio show about conservatism on campus? Isn't that kind of crazy? That's a complete Lalo moment, by the way. Sheesh.
But she is. Like, what kind of an impact? Do the young people get excited? Like, when they see a Carrie Lake, what does it make them want to get more involved?
Yeah, I think it's like signing a new quarterback in the first round. You're basically changing the culture. And it seems to me as if Carrie Lake is, and you can even look at this at a very basic level at like Twitter engagement. When you're looking at her having an account with like 1.8 million followers, you have state representatives that ought to have like maybe 10% of that, but instead they've got like maybe 2,000, which is to say that not only is it just charisma, but it is a brand. It is to say, you know, I met Carrie Lake. That is awesome. People don't get that same response if you say, I met with this person. And they could be a fine congressman, but they're not Carrie Lake. And again, Carrie Lake isn't even an elected person yet. And so to be saying that is to say that this brand, this sort of set of policies by this woman, I mean, it's such a big sort of like Reagan-esque sort of largesse she has in politics now. And it's a very polarizing thing because it's also like with the good speaking and the genteel way of basically assuaging concerns among the party that she has some similar to Reagan. But she also has got the polarization effect done by like the whole Trump sphere. But I do think that she generally does bring that sort of pizzazz to politics, to the youth, because they see in her a future where in 2 years they could say, I'm working for Carrie Lake, and that means something. They can also view themselves working for somebody lame like Karl Rove or something, but that is not, and that's not viscerally exciting.
This is the difference. Like, 20 years ago, Karl Rove was given the nickname the Architect, and now like people that know what's happening, and there's more of us that know what's happening, they want nothing to do with a guy like that. Nothing at all. So you guys, was that the first time you guys met Carrie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll ask you. I mean, so she was walking by, right? It was the end of the whole event. She's just walking through the crowd, talking to people and everything. I mean, and then you guys were telling me something like, "Hey, Carrie, come talk to these guys." Like, what was your impression?
We were super excited because we had seen her a couple times, but she's so popular, so mobbed by people that I kind of felt rude if I just kind of went in for a picture. So you did us a great.
Also, common trend by Lalo is that he'll be around more famous, more clouded up people, but he will put them first. Because I am a very selfish, narcissistic person, but when it comes to more famous people, I realize when I'm that famous, I don't want groupies around. So when I see Carrie Lake mobbed up, even though she's like famous and whatever, I say, well, would she really want to meet me? The answer is yes, but she doesn't know it yet. So like, I want to like have a lot of consent before I ask a favor or do anything with somebody famous. And you might get the critique by some naggers. These mother effing naggers, okay? These naggers, they won't leave me alone. They'll keep annoying me. They'll say, you need to ask more favors from your friends. No. Okay, I need to be nice.
Great favor with that because we've been looking forward to meeting her for a while. And what we also noticed is how she really gave, and usually politicians would show up to the speech, leave right after. Yep. She actually stayed for a lot longer than I would personally, and I have no clout. And so for her to just go around and really just dap everybody up and be really friendly with everybody and make their day kind of shows how much of an unselfish person she really is.
She's genuine.
Yeah.
I mean, she's real. Like, you guys were having a conversation with her. And she's looking at me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is huge!" Like what you guys were telling her. Like that's why I want to get your message out. Like people are getting involved, you know. And yeah, like she is that way. And trust me, her staff has to drag her out, and then she gets mad because she wants to stay there for as long as she possibly could. So anyway, I'm glad that you guys were able to meet her. It was a big deal. So the young people get excited about her, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
There was actually.
What do you guys think? And I'm here, by the way, you two U of A college Republicans, Ricky and Lalo. What do you guys think of Matt Gaetz?
Big fan.
Yeah, we really like him because he's one of these people that came after Trump, really modeled their whole flow from him. But I think that he does it in a way that is actually with taste. Yeah. There's a lot of copycats. DeSantis kind of is, you know, like Trump but like diet and decaffeinated and boring. Matt Gaetz is really somebody who takes the whole bit from Trump but actually does it in a good way, to the point where people are calling him a frat boy as an insult, but I guess us that are young kind of find it as cool. Plus he's also having the gravitas and I guess the cojones to really just challenge the establishment and shake things up, even if
I said that so white, cojones, and instead of saying frat boy, I enunciated the word as fat boy in response, which I guess I flubbed up on accident there.
Jim Jordan doesn't win, is to say, well, you know what? At least McCarthy can get his card pulled, and it's exactly what we're watching today.
And that's the thing. So I'm just curious what you guys think what happens in your Republican club on campus. I mean, is that generally the thought process too, or it's less establishment and it's more like this, like, stop lying to us. We know what you're doing. Kevin McCarthy simply said, vote for me and I'll do what you want. And then he got in there and didn't do what he said he was going to do. So Matt Gaetz and Eli Crane and Andy Biggs and the rest said, we're calling your bluff, man. Get out of here. And that's what happens in life. And yet you have these idiots like these fossils like Newt Gingrich and the rest of them calling them traitors and all that. Shut up. Mm-hmm. So is that the same attitude as the younger version? Like, again, I say conservatism is the new punk. Like we're going to say like it is and do it like it is, and we don't care what you think.
Yeah. At this point, it's only smart Alex that really think that it's like, oh, McCarthy did a bang-up job or anything stupid like that. So it's definitely just people that are...
That was an inside joke about this guy we know in Arizona who is a DeSantis fan who thinks that the election was completely legit, both in 2022 with Kerry Lake and 2020 with Trump. And that is obviously incorrect. And again, on top of that, this guy, does say something stupid, like he'll call into C-SPAN as a Republican saying, actually, I'm independent now. I'm going to vote for Biden because Donald Trump is crazy and he's running a madhouse of insanity. And I think that Mike McCarthy did a bang-up job, or whatever is that even his name? It's Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy did a bang-up job, which is not even a centrist dotard like Mitt Romney would say probably. But the guy feels the need to be a smart aleck because he's a bastard. So anyway,
know-it-alls that would say like, I read a book from 1994 and I think Newt Gingrich ought to be the it's like, no, clearly he lost his fame at some point, like in the year 2000. Yeah. So yeah, it's a new change of guard. And on top of that, everybody in the club minus like a few.
I met Newt Gingrich. He literally looks like a dried up dog shit. It's tough.
Six in the mud definitely do vibe with the whole Gates thing way over any sort of old blood, or I guess what was called the Young Guns as of 15 years ago. So yeah,
gotcha. And the Young Guns, it was Kevin McCarthy, Paul Ryan, and
see, I think older people appreciate this because I guess the Garrett Lewis guy is like in his 40s. But like I bring up something that was relevant in the nomenclature of politics in 2010. Young Guns. That was a book about a couple of upstart Republican moderates, Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, and I believe Kevin McCarthy. These people, again, a reference from when I was in the second grade, mind you. So again, people that are older tend to recognize like, wow, this guy's an encyclopedia. And on top of this, instead of Encyclopedia Britannica, you'd say Encyclopedia Spicatia or Mexicania. But the point is, and that was a bad joke, but I don't edit, so you have to deal with it. Another point is that I brought up something else, which was that, Newt Gingrich, 1994, what was that? The congressional landslide from the Republicans. Now, that is a reference from 29 years ago. Again, for me to know that is impressive. Most old people don't get that sort of commentary from the youth, which is why my stock going up like this. So,
and what's Eric Cantor? They're all gone now. Mm-hmm. Well, at least McCarthy's still there. But so just before we talk about the guy in the diaper, also, I'm just curious, what are some of the main issues?
Yeah, so the man in the diaper thing is that there's like this transsexual who's like walking around the girls' dorms in a diaper or some other nonsense like that, watching the girls sleep or something like that. So yeah, that's gross.
That you guys like the big thing on campus, they were college Republicans.
So our main issue right now, I would say, is like just like making sure the kids feel safe, right? On campus with the homeless and also the professors, right?
Is the homeless a big problem on campus?
Oh yeah. If you go up to where homeless. A lot of like
ideas in democracy, and she had like 50 different shades of democracy, like down to like the subset of like Aristotelian. It was like the most convoluted way of like discussing democracy for 6 months, and so that's like what the class was about. Yeah. And the silent majority sort of mantra does really work out, even in Nixon's time, because you can basically have somebody who's conservative talk in a college that is like 80% Democrat. There still ought to be like in a lecture of 100 people, 20 people that are low-key Republican. And so they obviously don't have the balls to say anything, but at least they respect that somebody will. And then they'll come to you after class when the teacher isn't looking. They'll be like, actually, you were really right about that thing. And so that's the sort of thing we tried to do last semester.
Yeah, I voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what. So you spoke up. would she argue? I mean, instead of teaching that, like that's the thing. She gets it's teaching about democracy. And what was it called again? Political ideas.
Yeah.
Political ideas that are mine and mine alone. It should have been called. I'm assuming.
So-
right? Unless you're racist.
Yeah.
You're an absolute.
Well, that's
racist.
their whole game because they'll say they're impartial, that they're not. They'll be like, I'm nonpartisan, but like every single opinion they have is completely kosher with like the liberal elite. And what's even better is that you'll have these people, instead of saying like, oh, I support gays or whatever, they'll say like, I support democracy, and democracy supports this like queer thing, or democracy is like fighting against this country, or it's not doing that. So it's a very, like, they basically grift off of definitions. And so that's the whole way they stay impartial, is by saying, well, if you're good, you're going to like all the things I like.
Yep.
Near the end of the year, it got so bad that she literally.
So notice how I use certain terms that usually don't fly well in, radio, but I just kind of get away with it. You got to be smart.
Well, also, I think it's like the boiling frog analogy, where for decades, these people gradually got more liberal in their indoctrination by the professors, and they didn't really pick up on it. And so the conservatives that were raised well didn't really fight back. Yeah. But now it got more polarized. And what's kind of good about Carrie Lake and Donald Trump is that people that identify with these politicians will see how pissed off everybody will get as the professors are just seething and frothing at Donald Trump and Carrie Lake. And they'll be like, okay, why do you hate my president? Why do you hate my potential governor? And then they'll realize that I have to fight back. And that's what they've been noticing recently, is that's why they're coming to the club meetings. That's why they're interning for us. It's because they're saying, well, you know what? They hate Donald Trump as a person. And before, it wasn't personal. Before, they thought, well, they kind of hate Iraq, or they hate this sort of conservative thing. And that was something that they passed up on. Now they actually feel under threat as a conservative student. And so that's why we're growing.
That's awesome. So, and let me just, and that's great, but let me really quick. So your poli-sci professor would go on a rant and show slides about, we need to let in all these illegals.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yet, did anybody ever ask, well, okay, we need to let in these illegals. Can I come take this class, sit in here without registering for it, without paying for it, and get credit for it? I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. Can I go to the U of A basketball game without having to buy a ticket? Will you just let me in the same way? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That'd be funny if you guys did that. You guys show up at a sold-out U of A game. I identify as illegal. Let me in. Just do it. See what happens.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be towards the end. So basically, we're talking about the diaper, this transsexual, confused human being going around the girls' dormitories, harassing the women. And so basically, they're saying like, oh, we need these rules. And I'm going a hard line. Now, here's what I'm going to say.
Bans too, because what the university will do, and I've heard this before, the cop-out will be like, well, technically it was a unisex dorm, so like technically he's not preying on just women, therefore it can't be harassment, or some sort of gay technicality like that. But the truth is that you've got to really nail down, and ideally the legislature would get on this, where you say, you know what, University of Arizona, no more technicalities. You can't say, well, I guess there's like one other person of the other sex in the locker room, therefore you're not predating on women. It's like, well, no, I mean, there's an obvious transsexual who's like a predator. And that, if you're walking around in a diaper, around 90% women, that's a women issue.
Well, and then on top of that.
So on radio, I say gay technicality, which I don't think would fly. I've never heard somebody say that before, but okay.
Very cool. Giving me hope. You guys are way more on it than I was. I had no idea what the hell was going on. So you guys are 10 steps ahead of me. We'll continue. Ricky and Lalo from U of A College Republicans. Garrett Lewis with you. Don't go anywhere. I have another college story, too. Apparently, there's outrage because tampons in the men's bathroom has been banned. Wait, what? Yeah, I know. I'll get that. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. KNST AM 790, Tucson's most stimulating talk.
I was crossing the street.
Alrighty, folks. So that was basically it. The whole thing was like 40 minutes. I talked for, 15 minutes of it? Yeah, basically. So first time on radio, first date, kind of nervous. Just kidding. But I really went in with no prep, kind of woke up, 6 hours of sleep. You know how it is. I got ready, and you know what happened? I think I did okay. Now, rewatching it, did I do as well as I had initially thought? No, because I think my voice doesn't come off as well as you would expect, because in my head, I have a great voice, but it comes out and it's not beautiful. Anyway, the point is, though, is that I think I kind of added a little bit more than the average college student would. So we did okay. But I mean, this is more so an upload for, I'm not trying to get views. I was going to do this unlisted. Basically, just a time capsule so you guys understand, okay, well, this is the baby steps. So in 5 years, when you see me way over there, you're going to be like, damn, he was over here, cutie pie. Anyway, see y'all. Adios.